Hey YouTube, it's rapid fire Q&A time, so let's get started. Okay. Maximum Sashi is asking, I'm from Sweden and find it very difficult to study the Quran, and I don't know many methods to use to study the Quran. In fact, I speak Arabic and memorize the Quran. Please, can you give me some tips and advice on how to study it myself in my free time?
Yeah, well, there's no one particular method, but one is to pursue a topical sort of study. There are books that, in fact, arrange the verses of the Quran in a topical order. There is a book entitled Subject Index of the Quran. And there is one by Thomas Ballantyne Irving, which is a very good one, giving you selected verses from the Quran arranged topically. So that would stimulate your interest. If you don't have one of these books, then many English translations of the Quran would have a subject index at the back towards the last few pages. So if you go there, you want to check, for example, what does the Quran say about drinking alcohol? So you just go, if alcohol, you'll point you to the verses that deal with that. You can go and read those verses. So that it will stimulate your interest. The other thing is just straight reading. Throughout. One can pick a plan and say, okay, I'm going to read one part of the Quran every day for 30 days and finish the Quran in a month, or I want to read a page a day, and let's say there's 604 pages in some editions of the Quran, so you will read a page a day, you will finish in less than 2 years, but you want to do it systematically, consistently.
Very helpful. Yusuf Ali is asking, how important is it to learn Arabic to understand the Quran properly?
Well, to understand the Quran on a layperson's level, Arabic is not essential because we have so many guides to the Quran written by people who understand the language, and they explain the Quran's topics, its teachings, its laws, and so on. To study the Quran at an academic and scholarly level, definitely one needs to learn Arabic because that's the language that we're dealing with, and in fact it is essential. You cannot do without it.
Okay. Ibrahim is asking, how can we explain to the atheist what Allah did to the people of Lut?
I've just written 2 articles about this, posted on my blog. So if one goes to islaminfo.com, Shabir's blog, one would find the articles there. Basically, I've explained that according to Surah 29, the 29th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Ankabut, the 29th verse, it's clear that the people of Lut had several sins. It's not only their homosexual acts, but also Lut says to them, how can you do this, this, and that? So that this, and that includes your cutting off the highways, and including you perform evil deeds in your assemblies. And moreover, Lot was one of the prophets of God, and the typical story in the Quran is that people are committing sins. A prophet of God comes to them to call them back to worship only one God, turn away from their idols and turn away from their sins, and they deny and disbelieve in that prophet. Now, it's not mentioned in the Quran that the prophet Lut was preaching the message of monotheism, but it can be presumed that he was doing that. In fact, Imam al-Razi in his tafsir says precisely this, that this would be the natural presumption that Lut, the prophet Lut, or known as Lot in the Bible, was preaching precisely this. In the verse of the Quran, he says, "Fattaqullaha wa ati'un," fear God and obey me. So this is typical of the preaching of the other prophets. But what was the response of his people? They said, drive out Lut and his followers. They are people who want to remain pure, and so his people who were rejecting him were obviously condemned by God for all of their crimes together, plus to add insult to injury, they rejected the messenger of God, Lut, the prophet Lut. And then God eventually sent 2 messengers from heaven in the form of human beings who came to be guests with the prophet Lut, but the people demanded that Lut hand these guests over to them so that they could rape them. And so their transgressions had actually reached unacceptable bounds, and they are God's creatures, so God has the right to deal with them as God pleases. We don't have the right to punish people on our own behest, but God has that right to do what he wants with his creatures, and this explains that story.
Okay. Spy X5 is asking, how does one go about finding a Muslim wife here in the U.S.? Would you suggest certain websites or matchmakers?
I wouldn't suggest any specific one, but I would say just be diligent in your search and pray to God. Make what we call the Salatul Istikhara, pray 2 rakats of prayer, asking God, please guide me to the best choice that's available. In terms of looking at some of these websites, one has to be careful which websites you register with, and in using matchmakers in person, one also has to not put all of one's confidence in what is being presented, but one needs to do one's own diligence, due diligence, search, talk to the other person, get to understand the other person, look for issues of compatibility, and then make your decision after consulting God in istikhara.
Always exciting doing rapid fire with you, Dr. Shabir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this.
Hey YouTube, we hope you benefited from this video. If you liked it, or if you didn't, let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, check out some of our other videos. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.